You know exactly what needs to be done. The problem isn't information, it's clarity, and clarity doesn't come from more thinking, it comes from doing. You're stuck in your head, trying to solve problems by replaying the same thoughts, waiting for the perfect strategy, the perfect timing, the perfect feeling. That's not clarity, that's chaos disguised as planning. When everything feels like a priority, nothing is. You wake up, check your phone, scroll for 10 minutes, maybe more, and suddenly your day is reacting to the world instead of responding to your goals. You open your laptop and feel the weight of 20 tabs and 15 different tasks pulling you in every direction, but you don't know where to start, so you start nowhere. This is how high potential people stay stuck, overwhelmed, distracted, and unclear. Here's the truth, clarity beats chaos every time. You don't need a massive overhaul of your life or your business. You need to pick one thing and move. Action creates clarity. Motion builds momentum. Sitting and stewing in indecision just makes the fog thicker. Think about the last time you actually made progress, real progress. It wasn't when you were perfectly organized or wildly inspired. It was when you committed. You chose, you acted. Maybe you didn't even know if it was the right choice, but you trusted yourself enough to start, and that created a ripple effect. One decision, one email, one message, one risk, and suddenly you were moving. That's what clarity looks like. It doesn't come before the action, it shows up after. The chaos will always be there, that list of things to do, the doubts, the distractions, but clarity comes to people who move through the noise. Not people who wait for the noise to die down. You're not going to find clarity by pausing until things feel easy. You're going to find clarity by cutting through the noise with action that matters. If you're serious about your goals, you need to create a system that prioritizes clarity over comfort. Ask yourself right now, what is the one thing I can do in the next 15 minutes that will move me forward? Not 15 things, just one. That's where clarity begins. That's how results are built. And let's get this clear, clarity doesn't mean you'll feel confident every step of the way. It means you'll know what step to take next, even when it's uncomfortable. Confidence is a result of clarity and consistency, not a prerequisite for starting. It's time to stop chasing productivity hacks and start practicing personal responsibility. You already know what matters. You've just let the noise distract you. Clarity is a decision. It's a refusal to stay in confusion. It's drawing a line in the sand and saying, I will not waste another day spinning in circles. So what do you do now? You close the loop. That email you've been avoiding, send it. That offer you need to price, finalize it. That task you keep rescheduling, finish it. Don't wait for later. Later is how people lose years. The fastest way to kill chaos is with decisive action. The fastest way to gain clarity is to choose even when it's imperfect, especially when it's imperfect, because perfectionism is chaos in disguise. It convinces you that your delay is noble when it's really just fear wearing a mask. Clarity is what separates high performers from average thinkers. It's what allows you to wake up with focus, execute without second guessing, and go to bed with results. Not because the path was easy, but because you chose not to sit in chaos. If you want to get unstuck, stop trying to solve your life in your head. Solve the next 5 minutes with action. That's how you beat the overwhelm. That's how you outgrow the version of you who stays stuck. You act. Clarity doesn't belong to the smartest person in the room. It belongs to the one who's willing to do what others won't take responsibility, move forward, and make decisions in the face of noise. So do this now. Shut down the distractions, stop the spiral of planning, and do the thing you've been avoiding. Don't think, just move. Clarity is waiting on the other side. You don't need a massive breakthrough to change your life. You need one small action right now. Most people waste months, even years, waiting for some grand moment to begin. They convince themselves that change has to feel big, that success needs to be loud, that momentum comes from some external force, a promotion, a follower count, a big win, but that's not true. Big momentum is born in small, consistent, uncomfortable decisions. It's not flashy, it's not loud. It's quiet. It starts with you showing up when it would be easier not to. The people you admire didn't get where they are because of one big move. They got there because they were willing to take one step when no one was watching. They didn't wait for motivation. They didn't wait for certainty. They built momentum through the little things, answering the hard email, making the extra call, staying focused when no one was holding them accountable. Those are the moments that matter. That's where momentum lives, in the daily, quiet commitments to push just a little further. The reason so many people feel stuck isn't because they lack talent or vision. It's because they overestimate what they need to do to start, and they underestimate the power of doing something small right now. You don't need a full game plan, you need a single step. That step might not seem important in the moment, but it builds something deeper: belief. And belief builds momentum faster than any plan ever could. When you start doing what you say you're going to do, no matter how small, you start rewriting your identity. You become someone who follows through. And that changes everything. Momentum is built in moments of resistance. When your alarm goes off and you want to snooze, that's the moment. When you feel fear but press send anyway, that's the moment. When you'd rather scroll, but you open the document, make the call, hit record, write the post, that's the moment. These aren't small decisions. These are defining moments. Most people talk themselves out of them, and that's why they stay stuck. But if you can win one of those moments today, you've already started building momentum. And the great thing about momentum is that it multiplies. One decision makes the next one easier. One act of discipline leads to the next. You stop thinking so much and you start moving more. Stop romanticizing massive change. Stop waiting for a fresh start, a Monday, a new month. Stop convincing yourself that you need a big transformation to be taken seriously. The truth is, your life can look dramatically different 30 days from now if you commit to one small, non-negotiable action every day, one thing done daily. That's how real growth happens. It's not what you occasionally do with a burst of energy. It's what you consistently do when you don't feel like it. You don't build confidence from making giant moves. You build it from proving to yourself that you do what you say you'll do. You don't need to have everything figured out. You need to move even if it's messy, especially if it's messy, because messy action builds more momentum than perfect procrastination ever will. Think about what would happen if you picked one small, clear action today and followed through with zero negotiation. Not 10 things, not 5 goals, just one action that matters. Imagine stacking that for 30 days. You'd be in a different place, not because the action was huge, but because you stayed in motion. And motion creates progress. It clears your mind, it changes your energy, it builds proof. The difference between someone who talks about success and someone who actually creates it is this: one waits until they feel ready, and the other acts before they feel prepared. That one decision to move before you're sure creates an entirely different path. One leads to stagnation, the other to momentum. You want results, do something, something small, something uncomfortable, something meaningful, and do it now, not later, not after the next planning session. Not once you've had more coffee, now, because small actions don't just build momentum. They build you the version of you who is focused, reliable, capable, and moving. And that version, that's the one that creates the results you're after. Waiting feels safe, it feels smart, it feels strategic. You tell yourself you're being patient, that you're preparing, that you're giving things time to align. But if you're honest, you're not waiting because you're planning, you're waiting because you're afraid. And fear dressed up as wisdom is still fear. It's just more comfortable. You convince yourself that timing isn't right, that you need more clarity, that next week you'll be more ready. But underneath all that delay is doubt. It's not timing that's the issue, it's your unwillingness to move while things are still uncertain. You don't need more time, you need more courage. The waiting is a delay tactic, and every time you use it, you're building a habit of avoiding responsibility. You're not delaying because you're smart, you're delaying because it lets you off the hook. You don't have to risk anything. You don't have to fail. You don't have to be seen trying. But the truth is, every minute you wait is a minute you're reinforcing the idea that you're not ready, not capable, not enough. That's not strategy, that's self-sabotage. You're not stuck, you're stalling. There's a difference. Stuck means you don't have options. Stalling means you're choosing not to take them. The longer you wait, the heavier the task becomes. It starts to look bigger than it is. You build it up in your mind until it paralyzes you. But the moment you take one step, just one, you realize it was never that complicated. The action you've been avoiding is probably the thing that would give you the clarity you claim to be waiting for. You don't get answers from stillness alone. You get them from motion, from doing, from getting feedback. You can't think your way into growth, you have to move into it. The waiting creates a false sense of control. But control is an illusion. What you really need is commitment. Commitment to progress, not perfection, because perfection will keep you sitting on ideas until they rot inside you. And when you're full of ideas but empty on execution, your self-respect takes the hit. That's where the spiral starts. You stop trusting yourself. You stop believing that your follow-through matters, but it does. Every delay costs you momentum, confidence, and opportunity. If you really want to grow in business, in leadership, in your personal life, you have to stop treating fear like a valid excuse. Fear isn't a reason to wait. It's a signal that you're near something important, something that could stretch you, something that will demand a new level of you. That's not the moment to back off. That's the moment to lean in, to say, if I'm afraid, this matters, and if it matters, I'm doing it now. Waiting creates a gap between who you are and who you want to be. That gap doesn't close on its own. It closes with action, with starting messy, with being brave enough to take the first step without knowing exactly where it leads. You want to be someone who executes, who finishes, who follows through. You don't become that person by waiting until everything makes sense. You become that person by taking action before it does. Think about what you've already lost by waiting: the ideas you didn't pitch, the opportunities you let pass, the people you didn't call, the posts you never made, the growth you didn't experience. Multiply that by every time you tell yourself, I'll do it later. That's not just time wasted, that's potential unclaimed. That's your future getting smaller because you let fear sound reasonable. You owe it to yourself to stop waiting. You owe it to your goals, to your growth, to your future team, your future family, your future self. Every version of you that's waiting on the other side of action is counting on you to stop pretending you need more time. You don't. You need to move. You need to risk being seen, risk being imperfect, risk failing forward, because that's where the real breakthroughs lie. No one is going to come hand you the perfect moment. You're not going to wake up one day magically ready. You become ready by acting, by deciding that the wait ends now, that you're done negotiating with fear, that you're done letting time slip away behind excuses. Start now, not because you're fully prepared, but because you're finally done holding yourself back. Waiting is the most polished form of self-sabotage, and you're done with that version of you. It's time to move. We tend to believe that big results come from big plans, that transformation takes months of strategizing, perfect conditions, and carefully orchestrated timing. But that belief is the reason most people never move. They spend weeks outlining goals, drawing out timelines, and building the perfect roadmap only to remain exactly where they are. Because while they're planning their future, they're missing the only thing that actually builds it, the present moment. Your future isn't shaped in some distant season of your life where everything finally aligns. It's shaped in what you choose to do right now, not later today, not tomorrow, not next Monday, right now in these next few minutes, because the future you want doesn't just appear one day. It's the compound result of small, intentional choices made consistently, especially when they're inconvenient. You don't have to fix your entire life today. You just have to decide that the next 5 minutes matter. What you choose to do in those 5 minutes can shift the trajectory of your day, and a shifted day becomes a shifted week. It's not about overhauling your routine. It's about interrupting the cycle of delay, breaking that habit of postponing what you know needs to be done. You tell yourself you're tired, that it's not the right time, that you'll do it when things calm down. But the truth is, waiting is easy. Acting is what takes strength. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. And your habits are made in minutes. They're not made in 90-day plans. They're made in the 5 minutes when you choose to open the document, make the call, press record, or take the walk. You build a life by stacking minutes like that, over and over, until they become a pattern. Until they become who you are. People often look at high performers and think they must be extraordinary, but what they actually are is intentional. They use their minutes with purpose. They don't let time slip away into distractions, excuses, or endless planning. They do the thing, they stop negotiating with themselves, and they train their minds to value execution over emotion. They don't wait to feel ready, they act ready, and that act builds momentum. There's nothing wrong with dreaming big or thinking long term, but if your dream only lives in your mind and not in your minutes, it's a fantasy, not a future. You want to write the book, you better be writing in these next 5 minutes. You want to build a business. What are you doing in this exact moment that reflects that? Because scrolling, avoiding, doubting, and procrastinating are not neutral behaviors. They're active choices, and they are building something to just not the future you say you want. It's easy to talk about legacy, impact, vision. It's harder to turn off the noise, open your calendar, and do the thing you've been avoiding. But this is where the shift happens. When you stop overestimating what you can do in a month and start underestimating the power of 5 focused minutes. 5 minutes of courage, 5 minutes of clarity, 5 minutes of uncomfortable but necessary action. This is where your future is made, in those small windows of time where most people choose comfort, but you choose commitment. That's what separates growth from stagnation, not luck, not talent, not connections, but what you do with the minutes that no one else is paying attention to. Every excuse you've used to delay progress is valid and still irrelevant. Your future doesn't care if you're tired, overwhelmed, or scared. It only responds to action, and the good news, you don't need to do everything right now. You just need to decide that you're done waiting and that you will make these next 5 minutes count. Not because you're inspired, but because you are done letting time slip away unnoticed. Your future is not far away. It's being built while you read this, while you choose what to think, what to believe, what to act on, and it's not waiting for perfect conditions. It's waiting for you to stop negotiating with distraction and start choosing discipline 1 minute at a time. So what can you do right now that aligns with the version of you you're becoming? Not the one who's always busy but never productive, not the one who's always planning but never finishing, but the version of you who executes, who commits, who makes 5 minutes matter. That's who you're becoming if you start now. Motivation feels good. It's the rush of energy that hits when you watch an inspiring video, read a powerful quote, or have a breakthrough moment. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Motivation is inconsistent. It's emotional. It's unreliable. You can't build anything meaningful on a feeling that changes with your mood, your energy, or your environment. If you want real results, you have to build your life on discipline, not motivation. Discipline is what kicks in when motivation disappears. It's what drives you to follow through on your commitments when you're tired, distracted, overwhelmed, or just not feeling it. Motivation is great when it's there. But discipline is the reason you keep showing up when it's not. That's where growth happens, not when it's easy, but when it's inconvenient. Most people live in cycles of motivation and guilt. They get excited, start something, lose steam, quit, and then beat themselves up for not staying consistent. But the problem isn't their potential, it's their approach. They rely on motivation to carry them through a process that requires structure. They wait to feel ready instead of learning how to move even when they're not. That's the difference between dabbling in growth and committing to it. You don't rise by being in the mood. You rise by being in alignment with your goals, even when it costs you comfort. And yes, discipline costs you comfort, but it gives you freedom. The freedom of knowing you're in control of your time, your habits, and your results. When you operate from discipline, your decisions aren't emotional. They're intentional. You don't skip the workout because you're tired. You do it because it's part of who you are. You don't delay the call, the meeting, the action step. You execute because you don't let your feelings determine your follow through. The mistake people make is believing discipline is rigid, cold, and exhausting, but it's actually the opposite. Discipline creates flow. It reduces decision fatigue. When you have structure, you don't waste time wondering what to do. You just do it. You build trust with yourself, and that trust builds confidence. Confidence doesn't come from feeling good. It comes from knowing you can rely on yourself to do what you said you would do no matter the mood. You're not always going to want to do the hard things. That's normal. That's human. But the people who create impact aren't the ones who avoid discomfort. They're the ones who work through it. They understand that desire follows discipline. That motivation often shows up after you start, not before. So they stop waiting to feel ready and start training themselves to act ready. Discipline also creates separation. In a world where most people quit when things get hard, showing up consistently becomes your competitive edge. It's what sets you apart. Talent is common, ideas are everywhere. Execution, real, gritty, daily execution is rare. It's the person who puts their head down and does the work over and over without needing applause who wins in the long run. And let's be clear, discipline isn't about being robotic. It's about being relentless. It's about knowing what matters to you and protecting it with your actions. It's about deciding that your goals are non-negotiable, even on the days when your energy is low and your excuses are loud. You don't need to feel powerful to act powerfully. You just need to make a decision, not once, every day. The more you practice discipline, the less you rely on motivation. You don't need to hype yourself up. You don't need to talk yourself into it. You just move. That movement builds proof, and that proof builds belief. You stop questioning if you're capable, because your actions prove that you are. So if you're tired of the stop cycle. If you're done with setting goals you never follow through on, stop chasing motivation and start building discipline. Get clear on what matters. Set up systems that support consistency. Stop negotiating with your mind. Do what needs to be done whether you feel like it or not. Because the life you want, the business you dream about, the confidence you crave, they're not built on inspiration. They're built on daily, disciplined, uncomfortable, boring, focused action. That's how progress is made, not by hype but by habit, not by feeling ready but by deciding to move. You don't need another motivational speech. You need to show up today. You need to keep showing up tomorrow and the next day. That's how winning is done. That's how your future is built, through discipline over and over again until your habits reflect the life you said you wanted.